What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and we're kicking off our 2023 college football predictions with the Georgia Bulldogs. Here are some predictions before we get to our predictions for Georgia. The FPI has them at 11.7 and 1.2. Now, that would, of course, include an SEC championship potentially. So 11 and 1 and winning the SEC, or 12 and 0 and losing the SEC championship. That's basically what the FPI thinks is the most likely scenario for this Georgia team. Athlon has them undefeated, 12 and 0. And then they also have them winning the SEC, going 13 and 0. And I believe they have them, I don't know if they predict the actual national championship, but they do have them playing Michigan in the national championship. So they at least have them getting to 14 and 0 before that game. And then the over-under for them is at 11.5. I mean, look, they're going to go 11 and 1 or 12 and 0 in the regular season. I just don't see any way they go 10 and 2. That would be a huge shocker. You look at this team, they're absolutely loaded on both sides of the ball. I think Carson Beck's going to come in there and play really well for them at quarterback. He's a talented kid, and I think he's had his time to learn there at Georgia, and I think he's going to be ready to go. You look at the weapons they have around him, the offensive line, the defense just continues to reload, and they play a lot of young guys. If you watch Georgia, they play a lot of young guys, so you're seeing new starters, but these are players that have played. They have experience, and so you look at all the guys they lost, but you don't realize that they've got other guys, not just that they're adding in recruiting, but players that actually played. And I think the defense is going to be probably the best defense again in the SEC. So let's get to the schedule. You can see they have a pretty easy schedule. UT Martin, Ball State, UAB, and then Georgia Tech in the non-conference. You look at their matchups out of the West. They play Auburn and Ole Miss. So they don't play Alabama. They don't play LSU. Really favorable schedule. And I believe they were supposed to play Oklahoma, and that would have definitely made this schedule tougher. But we're going to go game by game, and I do this. I go game by game, but I don't want people to get too hung up in the individual games. At the end of the day, it's really just about predicting the overall record. So I think they start with two easy wins. No doubt about it. UT Martin, Ball State, those should be, again, easy wins for Georgia. And then you get to SEC play, where they're going to play South Carolina. A lot of people are high on South Carolina. They think that this team could be the second best team in the SEC East, maybe even challenge Georgia. I don't think many people are expecting that, but definitely a lot of people out there that think that they could be the second or definitely the third best team in the SEC East. I'm not really buying that. When I look at their total roster, I just don't think that it's there. I think they've got to do some recruiting before they're ready to play with a team like Georgia. Spencer Rattler back, that's great. You got some weapons at wide receiver, but other than that, in the trenches, this team is just not very good. And I think Georgia will bully them. I think they will dominate this game at home. I don't think it will be close at all. I think Georgia wins, and then I think they beat UAB after that, and I've got them starting 4 and 0. All right, up next, they're going to play Auburn on September 30th on the road. Could be a tricky game here. It really, I think, is going to come down to Georgia's run game, because Auburn has a really good secondary. I think that they're going to make it tough for this Georgia offense, the passing offense. Young quarterback, assuming it's Carson Beck, playing on the road against a really good secondary. So I think Auburn will do a pretty good job of taking the pass away, but the run game for Georgia may still overwhelm them. And then on the other side, is Auburn going to be able to score points? I think that's going to be tough against this Georgia defense. So I think it'll be a lower scoring game, maybe one that's close at halftime, but I do think Georgia will pull away and get the win, and that's going to put them at 5 and 0. All right, up next, we've got Kentucky on October the 7th. This will be a home game for Georgia. I think Kentucky is a team that could actually challenge Georgia a little bit. You look at all their weapons at wide receiver, they are really loaded there, and you've got Devin Leary stepping in at quarterback. I think that's something, maybe they can hit some big plays on this Georgia defense. I don't think that Kentucky's defense is as good as it's been in the past, though, and I think Georgia will score in this game, and their defense will make enough plays. They're playing at home. I don't think it'll be particularly close. Less than 20, but more than 10. Let's just put it that way. I do think Georgia wins here. And a couple of tougher games for them, but still fairly easy wins back-to-back here with Auburn and Kentucky both being wins. And then you go to Vanderbilt on the road. I know Vandy is starting to improve a little bit as a program, but they're nowhere near Georgia. This one will not be close. Georgia rolls on the road, and they stay undefeated. All right, next they've got Florida. A bye week before this game, then they'll play Florida in Jacksonville. Rivalry game. You never know what to expect. I just look at the two rosters, and Georgia just has such a better roster than Florida. I don't really see. I mean, there's nothing here to really give Florida much of a chance. I don't see anything there unless they can force some turnovers, make some big special teams plays, something like that. And crazy things sometimes do happen in rivalries, but I just don't see that happening. I think Georgia wins this game and they stay undefeated. Missouri on November the 4th. They didn't lose last year, but this is kind of like a revenge game for Georgia because they did struggle on the road at Missouri, one of their tougher games last year. So maybe they use that as motivation. They come out fired up and they completely dominate this game against a Missouri team that I actually think is a little bit underrated, but I do think this particular game is going to go to Georgia, and I think they're going to win big and make a statement after that close game last year. So they stay undefeated, and they'll play Ole Miss on November 11th at home. You know, Ole Miss is going to have the type of offense that is going to challenge this Georgia defense. Those spread offenses with a running quarterback, they give Georgia defenses trouble. Same thing with Alabama. We've seen that in the past. So I think Ole Miss will score some in this game, but their defense is just not going to be able to do enough to slow down Georgia. So I think it is a shootout, a high-scoring game, but Georgia may put up 60 points in this one. I think they will win by a couple of touchdowns. Not a blowout, a pretty competitive game, an exciting game, but I do like Georgia here to get the win. And then you go to Tennessee, November 18th on the road. If Georgia's going to lose a game in the regular season, this is it. This is the most likely loss in my opinion. Tennessee played them somewhat close last year. I mean, it wasn't really close, but it wasn't a complete blowout. Tennessee missed some deep balls that really could have changed that game last year. But they were playing in Athens. This time they're playing at home in Knoxville. Maybe they hit those deep passes. Maybe they make some big plays through the air. Georgia's going to give them opportunities. We know how they're going to play them defensively. Can Tennessee make those big plays? I think they do. I think they make a couple of those big plays this year. Playing at home will give them that confidence, and I think this will be a very tough, hard-fought game, but at the end of the day, I just think Georgia is too good. I think they will find a way in the fourth quarter to get the win. Definitely going to be their toughest game of the year. I could see them losing, but I'm going to predict them to win. Georgia over Tennessee. And then we go to Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, final game of the year. We saw a little bit of fight from Georgia Tech in this game last year. I expect a little bit more of the same this year. It won't be 50-0. Georgia will put up a little bit of a fight, but it's not going to be enough to make this game all that close. I think Georgia gets the win over their rival, and I've got them going undefeated in the regular season. I've got them going 12-0. Again, Tennessee being that one game they could lose. You look at that Kentucky game again. I think there's a good chance that they're undefeated when they come in there, so that could be a big-time matchup. At Auburn, I look at Ole Miss. So there are some games that I don't think are going to be complete blowouts. It's not going to be the most boring season ever for Georgia fans, but it will be pretty boring because it's going to be mostly blowouts. But I think there will be some somewhat competitive games in there, and then I think that Tennessee game will be the one really tough game for them. So I've got them at 12-0. Give me your predictions down in the comments below.